Hi, my name is Charles Lipka. I'm a freshman at the University of Detroit Mercy, and this presentation will be on Cybersecurity 101. So for the agenda for this presentation, I will discuss the Service Learning Institute at Detroit Mercy, since this is a service learning class. And then I will discuss what is cybersecurity and why it's important. Then I will discuss the common terminology, some terms that you may already know, and then browser safety. I'm pretty sure everyone has used a browser in their life, like Google or Safari if you have an iPhone. Then I'll talk about PII, which I'll explain eventually, and then threat actors, who they are, what types of threat actors there are, and how can you as an individual increase your cybersecurity on your devices, whether it's a phone or a computer. And then I will discuss passwords, whether what the ideal password looks like, and the length, the types of characters that you use, and if you should have different types of passwords. To start, let's talk about the Service Learning Institute at Detroit Mercy. So the Service Learning Institute believes that compassion allows for learning and engagement in students. Students involved in this program need to complete 5 to 25 hours of service. This can depend on their major or the number of service learning classes that they take. And these experiences will hopefully spark interest and motivation in their careers and also provide learning experiences for the students. Let's say they can learn about the types of work environment that they could be working in the future. So if you have any more questions on the Service Learning Institute or want more information, you can feel free to contact Father Hipskin at his email to the right. So you may be wondering, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity in its most simple terms is protecting electronic networks and data. You may be wondering what data is and what networks are. For example, networks, I have my own network, it's my home Wi-Fi. So that's an example of a network, and companies have their own networks. It's usually just like Wi-Fi routers across their building. And data is anything that is on the internet. There's useless data that hackers don't really use, but also important data like your name, your phone number, your social security number. It shouldn't be on your phone. But if it is, if any important data is on your phone or any device, the intent of cybersecurity is to protect that from hackers. So let's discuss some common terminology that most people should know, whether they're interested in the field or not. So let's start with firewalls. I feel like most people have at least heard of firewalls. Firewalls are a security system that is put into networks and monitors traffic and lets in traffic that it deems safe and turns away traffic that is not deemed safe. And the next term is phishing. I feel like this is also a term that most people have heard about. Phishing is when a threat actor sends an email to a victim or potential victim that is designed to trick the recipient into revealing information like a social security number, bank account info, anything like that. And ransomware is another term. And ransomware is a type of malware that blocks a computer or multiple computers from accessing files and demands a payment in return for regaining those files. These are usually, ransomware attacks are usually targeted towards companies, since companies usually have data and files that are useful. So ransomware can take that data and files for ransom, and the company needs to pay that back to hackers. And then for the next term, malware, there are lots of different types of malware, but malware in general is just software that infects your computer or device when clicking on an infected link. And then honeypots. I don't think this one is really well known because I didn't know this before I started studying. So honeypots are like firewalls, where as in they are a security system in networks, but honeypots are designed to appear as important information, but in reality, it monitors the hacker and then blocks them from the network. So let's talk about some browser safety. Like I said before, almost everyone has used a type of browser before, like Safari on iPhone and Google on your Windows device or Mac device. So these are just some tips to help improve your cybersecurity when using a browser. So the first tip is to avoid risky websites. For me personally, I have a VPN that shows a orange exclamation point next to the website. The website is deemed risky, and a green check mark beside the website if it deems it safe. So that's just a way to avoid risky websites. The second tip is to not download anything from sites that you deem untrustworthy, that are suspicious to you, because they could be infected with malware. And then the third tip is to update your browser when updates are released, because companies who make the browser usually like to include antivirus software that can help protect you from malware that are on websites or links. So updating your browser can hugely benefit you with antivirus software and protection. So the fourth tip is to enable privacy and security settings, because it's just another way for you to protect your name and other information that could be on your browser. And then the fifth tip ties into the first tip that I said, was buying extensions or antivirus software to help protect malware that you could potentially get from links. Now let's talk about PII, which stands for Personal Identifiable Information. And PII is information that can be used alone to identify you or someone. So some examples are social security number, your full name, your driver's license, and your medical records. And especially when we look at medical records, they can include your name, your contact info, some payment info. So your medical records are super important to be protected. And that's why HIPAA is in place, because we don't want that information to be public. So now let's discuss threat actors. Threat actors is just another term for hackers, and there are 4 different types of threat actors. The first type is amateurs, or what we call script kiddies. They're just novices who don't really know what they're doing. They have some understanding, but not a full understanding of hacking, and they usually use tools to hack that are on the internet, so they don't use their custom code or whatever. And the next type of threat actor are hacktivists, and those are just hackers that are usually motivated by some political gain, whether it's exposing a specific politician or just any type of information that involves politics. That's a hacktivist. And then the third type of threat actor is an organized crime group. They are usually just motivated by financial gain. They're just hackers. They can be script kiddies, and they also can be advanced hackers that make their own code, but they're usually motivated by financial gain and usually can target people or corporations for money using like ransomware or something like that. And then the fourth type of threat actor is state-sponsored or terrorist groups. So these types of threat actors are usually hired by a state or a country to hack and gain information from another state or another country. So these groups are usually just hired, and their motivation is for money also, but to also gain information from the specific country they're hacking for, whatever country hired them. And the main reason, like I said before, for hacking is usually financial gain, politics with hacktivists, or information. So let's talk about how you can increase your cybersecurity as an individual. My first tip, I will go further into this on the next slide, but you want to make strong passwords. The second tip that I have is to update software. I already kind of talked about this. That companies can include antivirus software that just increase your cybersecurity, so you always want to be up to date on your apps or whatever you have on your computer. The third tip is to download and run antivirus software. You can purchase antivirus software from companies that protect your computer from malware or viruses, or you can also run antivirus software on your computer that tells you if you have any viruses or malware currently on your computer. The fourth tip that I have is to use multi-factor authentication. Banks typically use this to confirm that it is you if you are using, if you're trying to access your bank account or gain bank information. So that's just another way to make sure it is you who is wanting your bank information, or if you want to do anything with your bank accounts. And the fifth tip is to look over suspicious emails. If you have an email that you are suspicious of in any way, do not click on the links that are, if they are included, because they could definitely be infected with malware. And a tip that I would also say when looking at suspicious emails is that if you are suspicious in like any way, do not click on the link, because if the email is important enough, they will contact you again if it's for work or something. So if you are in any way suspicious, do not click on the link. Now let's go more in depth with passwords. So a basic rule for passwords is that the longer the password is, the better, but the recommended password length is around 12 to 14 letters and numbers. You can use different combinations of letters and numbers. You can also add symbols. I've seen many websites that also require symbols to make a password. And another tip that I have for making a password is you can use passphrases instead of letters and numbers. And passphrases are like sentences or something that's important to you that you can remember. And you can also use these passphrases and you can replace certain letters with numbers or symbols. Like you can replace A with the number 4 and E with the number 3, or I with the exclamation point, or whatever you want. And also another tip that I have to increase your cybersecurity is that you want to use different passwords for different apps or different accounts. So let's say I have a password for my Google account that I use for school. I would want a different password than that for, let's say, my bank account, because if a hacker gets my Google password and my password is the same as my bank account, then he can easily just access my bank account. So having different passwords especially for important apps that include important information is really important to increase your cybersecurity. So that is the end of my presentation. On this last slide, I included some contact info, my contact info if you have any questions or comments. My email is the first one. And then I also included my professor, Miss Congi's information. Her email is below. And also the link below that is the link to the Cybersecurity and Intelligence Studies page and the Detroit Mercy website. And if you're wondering, the reason that that link is green is because I already clicked it to test to see if it worked. So that's why. Thank you. Have a good day, good evening, whatever time it's for you. Thank you.